Hi guys, welcome to the latest episode of Cricket Draft Insights. Just thought I'd look forward to the T20 Blast. It's not quite a squad announcement yet, but a sort of provisional squad. So which players am I looking at? On the batting front, Kashif Ali had a great start to the season with a couple of county championship hundreds. He was in my one day cup squad last season, absolutely tore it up with some really destructive innings. Didn't quite fire in the T20 Blast last year. I feel now, he's really settled, scored some runs. If he tees off as he's capable of, surely likely to start. He could really rack up some points. So, as has been the case with my county championship side, expecting to have Kashif Ali in my T20 side. A bit more consistency on the batting front, and I'm going to start pronouncing his name correctly. Aneirin Donald, who might again be classed as a wicket keeper, so I'll come to that in a minute. Had some good quick innings in the county championship, missed out last week, which was a bit disappointing, but still a player who I think is better than his numbers suggest. And just if he clicks, I saw some people comment this week about some of the consistent players and how you should have them. And I'm looking at players who maybe they haven't always fired, but if they could, and maybe they're not in everybody's team, who really rack up some points. So if Aneirin Donald can fire as he's capable of, he could seriously rack up some points. So I'm interested to see how he does in white ball cricket. He scored a couple of one day hundreds last year. I'm hoping he can kick on in T20 cricket. Another player I'm looking at is Daniel Hughes, who's done quite well for Sydney Sixers in the Big Bash. A lot of Australian, successful Big Bash players to consider. He's sort of steady away. He's not like a six hitting machine from the get-go, tends to absorb the pressure a bit, but then can up it. He was described as Australia's cricketing unicorn. I mean, he averages about 57 in list A cricket. He never played for Australia. A bit unfortunate there, but he's under consideration for me. Ashton Turner, I mentioned before, who bowls a bit, but if he's listed as a batter, I spoke before, I really like him, but he is one who's been in the middle order. Circumstances of the game can bring strike rate penalties, but he's also very capable of clearing the ropes. Good fielder, could contribute with the ball. So I'll come to some possible subs later, but there are a few players that are standing out to me in the batting bracket. In the all-rounder category, I might just have to refer to my notes because we are absolutely swamped for quality all-rounders. So sticking with the Australian theme, so I brought Bill Webster into my county championship side. His T20 stats are a bit underwhelming, actually. But again, I just put him in the bracket of player who I think could do a bit better than his numbers suggest. He averages about 28, but the strike rate's only about 120. And he's only got 15 wickets. But I think he bowls a bit more now, and I would have thought he would for Gloucestershire. Very capable of clearing the ropes. We saw a brief sort of 44 not out, I think it was, a couple of sixes in the county championship. So I'd like to have him in. And Chris Green, I'm very keen on. I know it's easy to look at him and say maybe he doesn't do enough with the bat. Extremely economical. I think the economy rates are only just above 7. Good fielder. So looking at having him in. Ayaz Swanepoel is one obviously I brought in the county championship. He was in the South Africa T20 team of the season. What's interesting there is Kent have Bartlett, Agar. Now they have Stobo. He's never played T20, so I'm not expecting him to be involved in the T20s. But Bartlett's surely going to play most of the time. So are Agar and Swanepoel going to be rotated slightly? So that's something to consider. And maybe why he misses out on my team. Ben Green is what I posted about last season before the T20 Blast. And as with a few players, I then didn't pick him and he just took wicket after wicket. He's been tearing it up in second 11 cricket this season. In the 3-day games, he did really well. He went to Leicestershire. I know he didn't set the world on fire statistically. But I thought he was bowling all right in a quick cameo or two with the bat. And then the second 11 T20s, he's last few days, a couple of 40 odds, wickets. He can bounce the ball in, but he tends to take pace off a bit, which I think brings great value and wickets in the same way as Benny Howell, who might be slightly forgotten about because he was injured last season and didn't play from the off in the T20 Blast. He was phenomenal in the Bangladesh Premier League earlier this season, and his batting sort of has upped its game again as well. I think he's done some work on his sort of big hitting, and he made a couple of 50s, I think, as well as the canny, skillful bowling. So always a player I've liked. It's going to be really tough. Jordan Thompson at Yorkshire, I've always felt could bat higher. Such a clean striker of the ball. He hits these hard, flat sixes. He's better than his batting numbers suggest, in my opinion. And he's one of those who maybe takes some cheap wickets. And as we come to bowlers, that's something I think is really worth considering. I remember Daniel Sams last year. There was a game where he took like 4-wicket haul. I think he took 3 wickets in the final over. So I'm going to talk about my bowlers in a minute. But I have a penchant for slow left arm bowlers. But if you can identify bowlers who are going to bowl the death overs, bowl like the final over, like you're just going to get cheap wickets. So yeah, on the bowling front, like Tom Smith is in my team. I'm just a huge fan. I like his style. I like the way he bowls. Consistent, economical, takes wickets. And then on the unorthodox slow left armers, both Freddie Heldrake and Jake Lintott come into the equation for me. Heldrake did well last season, slightly dried up, and wasn't completely won over by the captaincy. I've noticed a lot in second 11 cricket. He plays and doesn't always bowl a lot. But in the T20s, the last day or two, he definitely did get a few wickets. So I'm hoping he still gets an opportunity. Lintott didn't make my team last year. I think he's a bit more expensive. So something might have to give there, because I wouldn't mind some pacers too. Ben Dwarshuis is one I like. I would have thought he'd bookend the innings, bowl at the top, bowl at the back end. He can strike a ball too, even if his numbers aren't great. So left arm pace bowler. And then Somerset have signed Riley Meredith this morning. Pace, wickets. These are good Australian players, even if they're not in the Australian side. Managed to watch a bit of the Big Bash a few years ago, less so in recent times. But there's some really good players here, and I think they're really going to complement the the counties in the T20 Blast. So yeah, just a few players that are on my radar. And then probably looking at subs. I mean, before I go any further, just talking about the second 11 performances. Ravi Bopara, Samit Patel. These are exciting players. I tweeted about Bopara, and then he went off the next game and scored some runs as well. He did really well last year. Surprising that Sussex released him, and I spoke about him in the One Day Cup. They're not scheduled to select Dan Hughes. Some curious selections going on there. But Ollie Cox is one I've mentioned, really keen on. I think he could maybe break through and get game time. But then if I've got Kashif Ali, do I have Cox as well? Tazim Ali at Warwickshire, Benkenstein at Essex, but Critchley did well last year, so maybe Benkenstein's still waiting for the One Day Cup to get some game time. But yeah, I suppose I'm looking at that. Like, all rounders are just spoiled for choice. Bowlers, yeah. Batters, I like those batters. Do I need a bit more destructiveness? Should I be the one or two others I should be looking at? But yeah, just a bit of a sort of provisional squad, the players that are on my radar to try and get down to 15. Year before last, I finished 222nd, and then last year I ended up like 1,400 or something. So, hoping to get back on the horse, do well in the T20 Blast, but I'm expecting it to be, tough and pretty volatile in terms of movement up and down the table. But yeah, hopefully looking forward to it. Like I say, just a bit of a provisional squad I'll share with you there. Let me know which players you've got your eye on, you're absolutely desperate to pick. Thank you very much for all the interactions on Twitter or X. Thank you very much for watching. How is that?